And now, Lowell, have you a few more unforgettable words?
About a new book called Diet or Die. Author, Mrs. Celesta Geyer, perhaps better known to millions of carnival fans as the one-time Dolly Dimples. Remember, the world's most beautiful fat lady? That was the billing Mrs. Geyer used when she weighed 555 pounds. Count 'em, 555 pounds. Now a svelte 122. She tells in her book how she did it, following the advice of a doctor who told her after a near-fatal heart attack to diet or die. The secret of effective weight loss, massive willpower, says Mrs. Geyer, adding that her own willpower was strengthened by the memory. Well, anyhow, she said that her fat friends from carnival life died at an early age, later buried from the back of a truck. Those her own words. Why truck? Because, said Mrs. Geyer, they were too big for a hearse. Oh, gosh. Oh.
And so long until Monday, Lowell.
Headline edition, Taylor Grant speaking, May 15th, 1953.
The American Broadcasting Company presents Headline Edition with Taylor Grant.
In Washington, General Bradley's speech today was one of several interesting news developments dealing with our military defenses. Here's a summary by Gunner Back. We seem to be unable to contact Washington at this time. Let's try once again. Our cue to Washington is here is a summary by Gunner Back. Sorry, we seem to be unable, for some inexplicable reason, to contact correspondent Gunner Back in Washington, even as we have contacted him every night for the past 8 years. Well, the speech by General Bradley, as you may have heard, was before the Women's National Press Club, and it was one in which he told the assembled ladies that the United States must spend heavily on military readiness as far into the future as we can see at this time. Now then, to the nation's sports fans, the biggest news in quite a while is building tonight in Chicago, where world heavyweight champion Rocky Marciano is about to meet that challenge from ex-champ Jersey Joe Walcott. We sent correspondent Tom Casey to the weighing-in ceremonies today, and he recorded this report at that dramatic scene. Well, Mother told me there would be days like this. Shall we try once again for Chicago? Calling Tom Casey in Chicago. Our cue is this report at that dramatic scene. Some nights you can't make $1,000. Unfortunately, we had been told earlier today that Tom Casey had recorded a very fascinating report at the weighing-in ceremonies in which he had the voices of both Joe Walcott and Rocky Marciano. Don't know how the betting is going right at the moment. Don't know as we should report it if we did know. Matter of fact, haven't a piece of copy about the fight tonight, except that we know it's going to be a very interesting one, an exciting one, just as it was the last time they met. The weigh-in ceremonies took place at the Chicago Stadium, and that's where correspondent Casey had prepared for us that excellent report, which you and I have been unable to hear at this time. Let's see what else we have in the news to talk about this evening on a memorable headline edition, at least to me. Suppose we come back to you in just a moment or two. On this cue, I'll be back in a minute with more news.
Headline Edition is one of over 60 top ABC news shows brought to you each week by a distinguished staff of reporters, analysts, and commentators. ABC specializes in swift, accurate, and complete reporting of the latest happenings here and abroad. That kind of news coverage doesn't just happen. A trained newsman fills in the coloring that... A trained newsman fills in the coloring that brings the event to life, but it takes an experienced correspondent to know how that event fits the overall news pattern. For penetrating analyses, stay tuned throughout the day and night to ABC. Now, here again is Taylor Grant and Headline Edition.
With portions transcribed. What portions? That's today's Headline Edition.
Dryer's US B-52 bombers early today struck in a major... Hold it a minute, please. We're getting right on off. We've got a power shortage. What the hell is this?
President Johnson signed a bill making 35-mile-long Assateague Island a national seashore park. Further, Mr. Johnson pledged to preserve other such areas. He claimed them for all people as oases of natural beauty. Assateague is a narrow finger of an island with dunes and a fine shoreline running from south of Ocean City, Maryland, to Chincoteague, Virginia. It's also known for its wild ponies. This is Frank Singheiser, Mutual News. Stay tuned to this station for all the news.
Radio Free Europe sends the truth where the truth isn't always allowed. Directly into the communist-dominated countries of Poland and Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary. Help Radio Free Europe get the truth through. Send your contribution to Box 1965, Mount Vernon, New York. This is the Mutual Radio Network.
See your conveniently located Toyota dealer in Greenbrook, New Jersey, Great Western Motors Incorporated in Valley Stream, Long Island, ABC Motors in Oakdale, Long Island, Sunrise Sports Cars. WABC, WCBS TV.
The Senate said in a resolution that it passed in 1964 by a vote of 504 to 2.
Well, when it was announced that this week's National Governors Conference was to be held aboard a luxury liner sailing to the Caribbean, there were suspicions that there might be more recreation than deliberation. Suspicions prevail, as this report from correspondent Ralph Penza indicates.
This is the National Governors Conference. This is the National Governors Conference.
What was he charged with?
Actually, I can read it to you. At approximately 1:05 on October 17, 1967, Shirley Nixon was seated at a bar at 875 8th Avenue, the Dakota Bar and Grill. There was one Alcicia Rosa, 432 West 5060. William Vick entered said premises and asked Miss Nixon what she was doing with that guy. He then stated, "I'm going to shoot your ass off."
Closing volume today, 10,910,000 shares, compared with 11,000,000.
Where are you speaking from?
My diaphragm. Here's some. All right, here I'm going to.
It's getting in the way.
Oh, all right. Closing volume. I'll get my pills out. Closing volume today was 10,910,000.
Right now, your animal health supplier is giving away free a special introductory size can of Pfizer Uddertone. Well, with each 12-tube carton of terramycin for mastitis that you buy, you get this special introductory size can of Pfizer Uddertone. Here we go. Oh, my goodness. Terramycin, now let's get serious, of course, is the mastitis treatment that you now you
want me to read that for you?
Now listen, I'm going to make it. I've got all day down here, and say, help me, Terramycin is the mastitis treatment you've kept number one for 12 straight years. And you've done that simply because it works. It does the job for you. Terramycin fights the broad range of bacteria that can cause mastitis, gives faster, more thorough udder coverage than any other broad range treatment can because of its unique all-liquid formula. And I thought I had it there for a minute.
You think I ought to do it?
No, I'm going to make it. I'm halfway through. And you'll find Pfizer Uddertone just great for soothing...
Why don't we come back to it?
No, listen, if I give up, I'll never make it. I'm going to face this thing right now because it'll be hanging over me all day. You'll find Fuzzer... Now you got
what?
You find Pfizer Undertone just great for soothing chapped Oh, I wish
they're only entitled to a 1-minute commercial.
Excuse me, fans, but it's funny. The last three guys, Case runs frantically down the line, holding up his hands, and the guy never stops.
You think maybe the Twins changed their signs?
Yeah, I think so. They're going to be funny. Stop means go. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. You should see the panorama out here. The third base coach violently trying to hold people up.
And our little thought for this morning. He is the rich man who can avail himself of all men's facilities. Or rather, that isn't the right thought for the day. He is a rich man who can avail himself of all men's faculties.
The organist here at Anaheim Stadium has a most unusual name. Shea Torrent. Isn't that right, Herb?
Yeah, I think that's it. Shea Torrent, yes.
Line foul past first. A high inside fastball.
He's got one of the best organs, too, Scotty. Boy, it's a peach.
Right now, the Twin Cities, 33 degrees, wind from the west, 14 miles an hour. The humidity is 69%, very light snow. The Weather Bureau radar indicates scattered light snow in the same location as at 5 a.m. Therefore, please continue to use the summary...
Which you threw in the wastebasket.
Issued at... Wait a minute, I got it. I got it.
Had it in our little round file here.
Wait, At 5 a.m., the Weather Bureau radar indicates some patchy light snow in extreme eastern Minnesota.
What do you say about Roosevelt that hasn't been said already? He was a legend practically in his own time. The New Deal, the Supreme Court, the jaunty way that he held his cigarette lighter in his mouth.
Policy has just revolutionized radio. We'll tell you about it in a minute. Meantime, here's Bill Hahn at the plate. If they heard you that time, I give up. And the strike on the end. Come on, we got to let them know what's going on here. Bill Hahn, the batter. One strike.
Would you give him the changes?
The pitch is high, 1-1. Come on now, tell them what you were using for the microphone.
My stopwatch.
Well, this could happen to anybody.
Yeah, sure. The stopwatch looks like a microphone, yeah.
Say, I understand Bob has more than 80 trained movie and television animal and bird stars you can pet, feed, and love if you want to.
That's right, and there are... Pet, feed, and love.
Here's Rick Weaver now of WBBM in Chicago. Well, we don't have a report from Rick Weaver in Chicago right now. We'll return now to news of bowling. Jim Stefanich is on our Sports Central line. And, Jim, we're going to ask you now if you were worried at any time when you fell behind in the scoring. We'll hope to hear from Jim after this message.
Problems up there in space? Oh, yes. Head colds for all three. Also a cabin full of crumbs and water puddles. Not to mention a lack of sleep, but Everything considered, they reported still go for 11. Well, let's get back to Earth. A major legal victory today for George Wallace. Wallace won an order from the U.S. Supreme Court to place his name on the Ohio presidential ballot, thereby assuring the third-party candidate of official ballot status in all 50 states. Oh, I'm in trouble. Elsewhere on the campaign trail, Hubert Humphrey appeared to be edging closer toward a call for a complete bombing halt over North Vietnam.
What's your name, little fella? Kenneth. How old are you, Kenneth?
5.
5. Kenny, did you ever do anything wrong?
I farted.
I see. And you think they should get a spanking then, huh?
No.
Okay, thank you very much, little fella. And what's your name?
Teddy Nowak.
Teddy. And how old are you, Teddy?
6.
And did you ever do anything wrong?
I forgot what I did wrong.
Come over, Mr. Cobb. Talk to the boys a minute.
What happened, Buffalo?
His name is Teddy.
And now, any more stories of double talk, Lowell?
No. Here's an important item. This is from Washington. The return to Washington of the U.S. ambassador to Moscow. They say it's routine. At any rate, so says White House News Secretary Pierre Salinger, who points out that Lowell and Thompson returns about once every 6 months and hasn't been back since June 1960. Well, we're not laughing about that. But under prodding by newsmen, Salinger admitted President Kennedy ordered today's announcement to be stressed. Oh, well, my apologies.
Join us again tomorrow evening for Lowell Thomas and the news.
Now, if you've been waiting because you couldn't afford it, check those no overhead clearance prices at Towsley and do it very soon. There are 2 big showrooms of Philco products for you to overlook.
Russia and China seem to be again at loggerheads. Peace talks at Peking, said to be on the verge of collapse, according to Soviet writer Victor Lewis, as quoted today in London. Victor Lewis, one of the in people at the Kremlin. He was the first to forecast the fall of Khrushchev. He says now that the chances of a Sino-Soviet peace pact are as remote as ever, adding that Russia's chief negotiator is about ready to call it off. Victor Lewis calling the Peking talks nothing more than a Mad Hatter meeting, and he asks, how long can one go on drinking tea in Peking? From Memphis, Tennessee, the story of a holdup, almost, the way it happened, a would-be bandit walking into a local gas station. Well, this was a funny one anyhow. He pulled a gun. He told the attendant to hand over his money, which he did, $20. The gunman... The gunman handed back, said that isn't enough money to go to jail for. And warned as he walked off.
Again, the hour's top story, a Senate vote today on a tax reform bill becomes questionable because an unknown number of amendments must be disposed of first. Dane Mell, NBC News, reporting.
Bullshit. Listen again on the hour when Ford, with 50 new models for 1970, brings you NBC Monitor News.
It's poultry management time as we hear from that man who in his day has handled many a chicken and really knows them inside out, I guess you could say. He's Glenn Long, of course. Glenn, what's on your mind after kind of a windy beginning here?
Well, Keith, you know that's the feathered kind of chicken that I'm familiar with.
Why, sure.
All right, you can take a package of little Bo pizzas, 8 to a package. You don't have to defrost them. You just pop them in the broiler or the oven. And in about 7 or 8 minutes, they're all ready to serve. You don't have to cut them or get plates or things like that. You can just serve them on one platter with little napkins, because I call them hold in your hand size. Hand in your That's grand. Well, how are we? Good to see you. I didn't come out right, did it? But anyway, just so you buy little Bo pizzas, because they're wonderful. They have, it's a blend of cheese and mixed with imported olives and pimentos and pure olive oil and liced tomatoes, and they're tender and they're good.
If your community needs a boys' club, write to the Boys Clubs of America, 771 First Avenue, New York 17, New York. With 550 Boys Clubs of America now actively engaged in teaching juvenile decency, we can stand many, many more. Now, Ken French and the news.
It is my pleasure to present to you now a distinguished American, yes, a former newsboy and a telegraph operator, a business executive, public servant, soldier, and humanitarian, Brigadier General David Saranoff, Chairman of the Board of the Radio Corporation of America.
You can have a home in beautiful Port Charlotte, Florida, for as little as $7,220, payable at only $44 a month. FHA down payment $22 with a 30-year mortgage. And all the pleasures, conveniences, and facilities.
Good evening. Bill Stern brought to you by Super Duper Cooper Tires. Tonight's story in a moment. Are your tires really safe at today's high turnpike speeds? Well, I know one sure way to pick a safe tire. Pick a Cooper tire, a tire that has 4 full plies. You know, most tire makers put balls.
U.S. Marines hurled airstrikes and artillery at a massing 1,000-man communist force in the heaviest action since the start of the New Year's weekend ceasefire. An American military spokesman today said the incident occurred in the upper province of Tuatien late yesterday, when the large communist force was spotted attempting to wedge itself between Marine outposts and main force Leatherneck units. The Marines viewed the enemy maneuver as a direct threat, the spokesman said, and got approval from Commanding General Westmoreland's headquarters to open fire with artillery. Later, airstrikes slammed the enemy position. Hello, New York. Oh, crap.
Allô, Paris? Et pourquoi vous avez mis votre disque en marche?
Hello, Paris. Hello, Paris. What the hell is that crawl doing on there? Oh, shit.
Many women are half aggressive, half passive at the wheel. They want to travel far and fast, yet want the same ladies' first rule to apply at intersections, bottlenecks, and parking areas. If these actions result in angering another driver, remember, he becomes a menace, too. This message is brought to you as a public service.
A 4-man American patrol operating in Haunia province had fallen victim to a water buffalo. The patrol was sweeping the rice paddies when the buffalo charged them. Straight-faced, the spokesman reported, 4 U.S. were wounded and 1 weapon was lost to the enemy's horn. 2 hours later, the spokesman continued, a U.S. helicopter spotted a water buffalo armed with an M16 rifle. The door gunner opened fire on the enemy, resulting in 1 water buffalo killed. Joseph Reed, Mutual News, Saigon.
Now, a Monitor Sports Special. Another report on the $100,000 All-Star Bowling Tournament. Here's Sam Levine at Convention Hall, Philadelphia. Well, I guess we're having a little problem down there with the storm or something. We can't get a hold of Sam Levine. And is he there now? Okay, Sam, go.
All in Philadelphia for Monitor Sports.
That's it. We are still going to try and get Sam Levine. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Fellas, are we going to try and get... Okay, all right. When I say go, the next voice you hear will be that of Sam Levine.
Since we...
Well, you can't win them all, friends. We tried to get Sam Levine, and things, the gremlins or the poltergeists or something, got in the way, and they missed it. Yeah, Sam, are you there? Not yet? Okay, a little music.
Call him on the phone. Tell him we're ready. What's your phone number?
NBC News special report today in Washington. Here is Robert McCormick, NBC News.
Bothered the heck out of me. I went out this morning and mowed the goddamn lawn. Came in about 2 o'clock. Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Overseas in the Congo this morning, all attention is turned toward the United Nations and the appearance there of President Kasavubu. But strongman Colonel Joseph Mobutu is himself making a show of force, as reported now by ABC correspondent Joseph Kasavubu.
The report that Congo President Kasavubu will give to the United Nations, I learned from a Western diplomat who has, however, been no reports of any violence. This is Bob Ross in the Congo.
That, of course, as you heard, was ABC correspondent Bob Ross, who's been reporting from the Congo from day to day over the several past months of crisis there.
Memphis, Tennessee this morning examines the results of a local election of more than local interest. We'll hear the story now from Memphis and Russ Hodge.
The rehearsal for the Rockefeller Rasmussen wedding was held this morning in the white frame church at Cigna outside Christiansand, with all the participants present except Governor Nelson Rockefeller.
I'm sorry, we will interrupt that report to tell you that we are now listening to a report on the preview of the Rockefeller wedding from Alexander Kendrick in Christiansand. Well, we'll try again to get that report from... Well, we're still trying to get that report from Christiansand. We'll try once again to hear from Alexander Kendrick.
Now back to CBS News in New York.
Well, that was indeed Alexander Kendrick in Christiansand, and we'd like to apologize for the temporary confusion.
NBC Radio, News on the Hour, brought to you by Cools, America's most refreshing cigarette. The cigarette with mild menthol for that clean, cool taste. Now here is Frank Burkholzer, NBC News.
NBC management announces that an unauthorized strike against radio and television networks continue, but normal programming is being maintained by supervisory personnel. President Eisenhower has vetoed a bill which would have taken away from the Secretary of Agriculture his power over REA loans. He said it would have marked a major retreat from sound administrative policy.
Where else could the town of Denby Dale be located but merry old England? And where else would anyone think of baking the world's biggest pie? But now look what's happened to the world's biggest pie dish. It's been sunk. The dish is a 1.5 ton steel vessel, 18 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 2 feet deep. It will house a pie containing 3 tons of beef, 2 tons of potatoes, and several hundred gallons of gravy. Powered by an outboard motor, the dish was launched in the local canal yesterday and moored for the night in nearby Muirfield. Under cover of darkness, somebody got at it and it went to the bottom. This is Dallas Townsend reporting.
And finally, New York City officials and U.S. Army engineers are conferring over the problem of a 52-foot, 35-ton dead whale, which was found floating face down in the Hudson River yesterday off Manhattan's Upper West Side. This summary was compiled and edited in the AFN newsroom from the wires of AP and UPI. Army PFC Nolan Gunner reporting. Our next news at 15 hours. In other news, the city of Glasgow, Scotland, has been subject of a nautical oddity. A 4-foot, 6-inch porpoise was found propped up in the men's room of the Central Glasgow Railroad Station. The curator of the Glasgow Museum Department of Natural History identified the unwelcome inhabitant as a freshly caught porpoise common in the River Clyde. However,
no one would venture an opinion on how the porpoise got there in the first place.
And now, any more submariner doings, Lowell?
The latest accomplishment of UNIVAC, telling a person what he ought to be reading. The electronic brain doing exactly that at the Seattle World's Fair. You fill out a card giving age, interests, background, and other personal information. The card is fed into the machine. Moments later, out comes the answer. For example, the 13-year-old boy said he'd like to know about rockets. He received a selective reading list. The 21-year-old girl said she was interested in sex. We'll skip that reply. UNIVAC almost had a spasm. One of the librarians in charge of the electronic brain is Marcia Holcomb of Denton, Texas. Her explanation... And so long until tomorrow.
This is Dick Noel reminding you to listen again Monday evening for Lowell Thomas and the News, brought to you by Oldsmobile.
This program came to you from the CBS News.
President Eisenhower today visited the Chocolate City. The president driving into Hershey, Pennsylvania to celebrate his 63rd birthday. 30,000 or more people were cheering him. All the folks who make Hershey chocolate with and without nuts. Fred Waring was on hand to conduct a chorus of 1,800. Ben Hogan's given an explanation on how he drives the golf ball. And that was especially to our chocolate president. A demonstration like that famous Ben Hogan bar golf.
Well, I won't putter around with that one. Instead, I'll tee off with a tip to those car buyers who like to drive a hard bargain. When you make a deal on a new car, do you like to be in the driver's seat? Then now's the time to make a deal on a beautiful new Kaiser. Because now your Kaiser dealer will put you in the driver's seat with the highest trade-in allowance, the best deal in town. He's taking part in Kaiser's new $62 million expansion program, and that means he's out to quickly increase his volume of business. So he'll give you a much higher trade-in allowance on your present car than you ever thought possible. In fact, you may save hundreds of dollars by buying the big, medium-priced Kaiser now. And that will only be the beginning of your saving, because you save every day you drive a Kaiser. Why, in tests conducted by Motor Trend magazine, they report that a new Kaiser equipped with Hydromatic and driven at an average speed of 30 miles per hour clocked an official 28.8 miles per gallon. And that was with regular gasoline. What's more, many Kaiser owners report amazing economy in oil, tires, and engine repairs, too. So don't wait. Visit your Kaiser dealer tomorrow and let him put you in the driver's seat with a deal that can't be beat on a big, beautiful new Kaiser. See him tomorrow. Now, for the thousands of Kaiser and Henry J. dealers everywhere, here's Lowell Thomas, who says,
So long until tomorrow.
Now your local Kaiser and Henry J. dealer wants you to know about the new low Henry J. price. Only $1,399 plus local taxes. And that means the lowest down payment, lowest monthly payments on any new car. In fact, after down payment, you can own a new Henry J. for less than $10 a week. And I'll need $10 a week from now on, so come on in tomorrow.
Or to make your life ecstatic, we can't be too emphatic. Get that brand new automatic 1201. Take it. Yes, for jazz or operatic, in a ballroom or an attic. Get the simple but dramatic 1201. And remember, folks, F is for fashion, fidelity, or fame. F is for fabulous, as you know. Oh, man, we're cooked,ده. Friends of every You'll make friends of every stranger with a Philco record changer. From the table size to those that weigh a ton. Or to make your life ecstatic, and we can't be too emphatic, to get that brand new automatic 1201. Yes, Yes, for jazz or operatic. Jazz or operatic.
That's good.
In a ballroom or an attic.
That's where we're going, in an attic.
Yes. Change warehouse. Get us in the morning. Get the simple but dramatic 1201. And remember, folks, let me hear that chord. I got it now.
Good.
F is for fashion, fidelity, or fame.
S is for fabulous, as you know.
First with the finest is spelled with an F. And Philco, you spell Philco. So you spell Philco without an F.
Oh, he's so wonderful.
That's what everybody says all the time. Well, bonsoir, Claudette. Bonsoir, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you again for coming down, Claudette. Where are we? You're supposed to say goodbye.
I'm supposed to say good night, B.
Good night, Claudette. Ladies and gentlemen, the Los Angeles Police Relief Association. My bridge is bothering. Now, if you'll excuse me, the Mills brothers and I like to blend in some ballads suitable for the barber shop. What's the first one there, Harry? I'll tell you my dream.
Right, B.
Well, you go and I'll come in.
I had a dream, dear. You had one, too. Mine was the best dream. It was of you. Come, sweetheart, tell me now is the time.
Don't you boys ever run out of wind?
Tell me
up there?
your dream, and I will tell you mine.
He is today's beauty expert, Richard Willis.
From Washington, Esther Van Wagoner Tufte, and we'll be listening to the tales and fables of Helen Hayes. And now, Virginia Graham answers her mail.
Today's letter is from Miss C.S., and Mrs. C.S. has a problem with her husband. He hasn't been coming home at night and giving her the marital devotion that she feels is necessary. She has lived with him for several years, and she feels that this is an indication of perhaps a sterility or a desire to have love. Now listen, Mike Wallace, you son of a bitch, you have been doing this too long. I have got to explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, that he's an impossible person and has been making me laugh on the air, and I have promised that I wouldn't do it anymore.
Virginia,
so
dear,
yes,
I'll take care of it. We're going to take a cutaway now, and then we'll come back in just a moment.
No, I will continue. And I'll continue talking. Now, I'm very sorry. I think maybe we ought to go to music, and I'll come back and I'll do my part later. These are one of the things, where a person gets hysterics on the air, and you'll just have to... Oh, I can't.
Protest demonstrations have taken place by workers whose trade union rights have been betrayed, by Catholics whose freedom of expression has been circumscribed, by professional men. Well, I believe it at least is a Christian right.
I'll be loving you always with a love that's true. Always, always. When the things you plan need a helping hand, I will understand. Always, always. LSMFT. Always.
Fellas, wait a minute.
That's the smoke for me. Oh, who the hell picked out this key, Dennis Day? Not for just enough.
We have, I think, to recognize that some governments believe, and this is the objection that the Soviet representatives have often expressed in the past, that inspection and control might be just a kind of cover for espionage. Of course, let us be frank. None of us particularly will welcome in our countries a large number of officials from abroad, a large number... Well, I'd like it translated if you would say anything.
He's out making his collection.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's this?
Peter Carroll.
Oh, look, my name is Abenson with the Mutual Broadcasting System in Washington.
Yeah.
Pete, could you by any chance give me any information on a report we've got, or it came in earlier, supposedly a shrimp boat fired on by a submarine?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious. This is the truth.
Well, I'll tell you something. I was standing out on my balcony at the Woodner about an hour ago, and I did see a bright flash in the skyline to the northwest of Washington.
Who is this? Who is this?
I think you must have the wrong number. My name is Peter Carroll.
You know who I'm calling?
No.
I'm calling the chief of police of Thunderbolt, Georgia.
Well, you got Peter Carroll in Washington, D.C.
Once upon a time, there was a man who couldn't tear a telephone book in two or lift 400 pounds, or a girl who couldn't swim the English Channel. You don't have to be the strongest man in town or a top-flight woman athlete to enjoy the wonderful feeling that comes with physical fitness. The answer is join your YMCA today and feel rich in the things that really count. You're welcome at the YM during National YMCA Week. Probably also at the YW, too, fellas. This message is brought to you as a public service.
This is Mutual, a service to independent stations.
Hello, Rexall Drug Program. Jerry Moore speaking.
Hello, Gary. This is Jimmy.
Jimmy Durante, where are you?
I'm home taking a bath. But the door on the locked room door... Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got a coffin coming.
It's going to be a long night tonight. Jimmy Durante, where are you?
I'm home taking a bath. but the lock on the bathroom door is broke.
Well, suppose it is. What's taking you so long?
Junior, did you ever try to take a bath leaning against the door?
I know that I was asked to accept this award for Senator Kefauver as a housewife, because I think that that's what Senator Kefauver did more than anything else in bringing the Senate Crime Investigating Committee into the home, into the kitchen, and giving us all an idea of what was happening right here in New York City. And I know that luckily I was sick the first day of the hearings, so I spent 3 days in bed enjoying Rudy Halley. And I must say, I got to know his every move so very well. No. Wait a minute. No, what I meant to say is that I really, you know what I mean.
Let's take a look at the Kentucky Derby, where the steadily improving Tim Tam and the sensational stretch-running Silky Sullivan were quoted as co-favorites at 2-5 today, as the second richest Kentucky Derby in history loomed with 19 finally tuned 3-year-old listed as probable starters.
The ladies and gentlemen of the Arrangements Committee are fervently hopeful that there will be no repetition of the untoward incidents which marred some of the earlier day inauguration jamborees. Even with 4 balls, a space is a big...
Here is Herb Kaplow, NBC News.
Now, you called me at 2 p.m. What did you want back then? Herb Kaplow! Stanley, hurry up.
I figured this was it. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, but they've already introduced.
Okay.
Hold on.
Federal Mediation Director Joseph Finnegan announced this afternoon he'll summon steel union and management officials to a series of mediation conferences starting next week, probably Tuesday.
Scientists say a successful orbit of the moon is unlikely in this pioneering attempt. This is Frank Blair, NBC News.
What does Super Anahist cough syrup do for you that no other type syrup can do?
In British Columbia, actor Errol Flynn died at Vancouver Hospital tonight after being brought there by an emergency squad. Flynn fit to perfection the popular concept of a movie star until the last few years when he grew punchy. Or rather, paunchy.
In the wonder world of science, uranium has been discovered a few hundred yards from the White House and nearly 300 feet up. It's in the granite of the Washington Monument, but not valuable or dangerous. Back here in New York, the Hayden Planetarium has heard from a Minnesota man who claims that the shape of Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, can be changed by flapping a bedsheet at them from the ground. The planetarium doubts it, but the man says he did successfully flap sheets in his backyard one midnight, though his wife kept hollering at him to cut out the foolishness and get back in the house. Now here are today's closing Dow Jones stock averages. Industrials off 14 cents, rails up 3 cents, utilities up 7 cents. And that's today's Headline Edition. Tune in tomorrow at this same time for Headline Edition. You'll hear important reports of the names who made the news and vivid on... This Sunday evening, be sure and hear Drew Pearson on ABC. Pearson has received many awards for his work, and one of his treasures is the Saturday Review of Literature site. This is ABC.
Lone Journey, heard every weekday morning on ABC, unveils the heartbreak of 3 lonely people. It's a lone journey for Sidney McKenzie because she's married to Lansing and in love with Wolf.
Will Sydney regret her decision to stick by her husband at all costs? She and Lansing have been marooned in Wolf's ranch house by a raging snowstorm. Sydney has pneumonia, Lansing a broken arm. Both need care that Wolf is willing to give, but which Lansing resents because of his seething jealousy of the man who was once married to his wife. But Lansing's jealousy has jumped the bounds of common sense. He struck Wolf in an unreasonable rage. He tried to burn the penicillin intended for Sydney because Wolf was going to administer it. In striking out at Wolf, will Lansing destroy what he's trying so desperately to keep, Sydney's love? Hear Lone Journey over ABC today. Pauline Frederick is heard Monday at this time. This program came from New York. This is the American Broadcasting Company.
Our kitchen counselor, Charlotte Adams, has been tramping around a convention again. And this time it's the National Association of Packers and Distributors of Frozen Foods, which is holding a powwow.
Charlotte, you have something to tell us about congealed condiments?
That's a
disagreeable-sounding arrangement to
Certainly
me.
does.
I have something to tell you about some quite nice things, I think. I am going to a luncheon of the frozen food packers today, where there's going to be
Frozen food what?
Packers.
Thank you. Peter Pepper, Pepper.
Say, June, do you remember when we met during the war in Sydney?
Oh, yes. You were flying over to entertain the troops, and your plane had that accident.
Yes, it sure did, right outside of Laurie's in there. Well, I've never told this before, June, but that wasn't an accident. We were shot down.
You mean the Japanese found out you were coming over to entertain?
No, the Americans. It was my own fault, though. I stuck my head out of the window as we came in at the airport, and they thought it was a flying schnorkel.
Well, I bet you were frightfully upset.
Not old Rob. Not me. I just cocked my... Cocked my pinky. I say before. You mean... No. I'd like to get a fresh start on the whole day. Not miserable. Where are we now?
Not all right.
Not old Rob. Don't help me. I'll make it. I wasn't upset at all. Not old Rob.
What? Look, Jack, here's my final offer. My brothers Harry, Albert, and myself are willing to take you into the firm and make you one of the Warner brothers.
No, I'm afraid not. That means I'd have to change my name.
If you do, the picture we're going... I blew it.
No, I'm afraid not. That means I'd have to change my name.
If you do the picture, we're going to change ours.
Now, here's Mr. Cummings with our stars.
And here they are for a well-earned curtain call. Barbara Stanwyck and Barry Sullivan.
How about your stars for next week, Irving?
For next week, we will have three of your favorites. And we will present them in an exciting drama taken from the story.
Columbia Network takes pride in presenting Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in the third broadcast of a unique new summer series dramatizing famous narratives by great authors. This is the first time that a complete theatrical producing company has been brought to radio, and the Columbia Network again welcomes Mr. Welles and his associates to its own stations and to the stations of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, coast to coast. Every week, Orson Welles invites our listeners to suggest their favorite titles, and tonight, at your request, the Mercury Theater on the Air presents A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, with Orson Welles as Dr. Manette and Sidney Carton.
Paris.
A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens.
For Christ's sake. Paris, 1767. Why the hell that? I don't know. I, Alexander Manette, unfortunate physician, write this melancholy paper in my doleful cell in the Bastille.
This program originated in Studio ACC in Hollywood. This is the ABC Radio Network.
Pardon me, keep listening to ABC.
See you again next week.
This is the ABC Radio Network.
You have a standing invitation every weekday morning to visit Jack Barr and his family in their home. You'll meet Jack's wife, Miriam, and their 7-year-old daughter, Randy, who can usually be counted on to provide a few laughs, along with her fun-loving dad, just like here. Pianist Jose Mellis is not an official member of the family, but he and Jack have been friends since Army days. Jack and his family and Jose discuss items in the day's newspaper and such everyday subjects. Anyway, listen every day to The Jack Barr Show on ABC. Keep listening to ABC.
Enjoyed the program which you have just heard. The editors of True Story magazine, who supplied the material from which it was adapted, are sure you will also enjoy reading I Wasn't Born Singing. Here's the heartbreaking story of Betty Hutton, the bombshell of filmdom, or something like that, who pulls no punches in talking of the mistakes she made in her search for love and security. Read I Wasn't Born Singing in the current issue of True Story magazine at all newsstands now.
From Hollywood, California, the Mutual Don Lee Network brings you now Behind the Story. Stories unusual but true, as transcribed by your favorite storyteller, Marvin Miller.
The Right to Happiness has been presented, transcribed by Procter & Gamble.
Stay tuned now for late worldwide news reports, which follows next. You're in tune with KENI, Anchorage, Alaska. Go on, give me a fresh... Stay tuned now for late worldwide news reports, which follows next. You're in tune with KENI, Anchorage, Alaska. At home or away from home, Avocet is the cream you can always depend on. It's made from real rich cream, then sterilized to keep sweet for months. Avocet table grade is fine. Stay tuned now for late worldwide news reports, which follow next. You're in tune with KENI Anchorage, where you'll hear an hour-long broadcast direct from NBC in honor of Sir Winston Churchill's 80th birthday at 2 o'clock on...
In a moment, Vincent Lopez entertains. In our unsettled world, a constant stream of reports pours into our news centers. Facts pile upon facts, gain impetus, and become trends. And unless you're on your toes, these trends get by you completely. This is the reason it's so very important in these troubled times to listen to news analysts who know all angles of world affairs. Henry J. Taylor, ABC's distinguished commentator, is such a person. Student of government, political analyst, and economist, Mr. Taylor is one of the nation's experts on national and world affairs.
Transcribed.
You've just heard the third call to breakfast, brought to you by Swift & Company, makers of famous quality foods. The Breakfast Club is coming to you from Chicago. This is ABC Radio Network.
Top reports on the lady who was shopping for a frilly nightgown as a birthday present for her pet poodle. They didn't have any, but the store clerk said, if you'll measure the dog, we'll have one made. And the lady said, oh, I couldn't do that. I want it to be a surprise. Page 2.
One of the most spectacular kinds of automobile accidents is the one in which a car not only gets banged up, but bursts into flames. What makes it really horrible is the idea that a driver and his passengers, stunned by the accident, may be trapped inside the burning car. The National Safety Council says that, fortunately for most of us, this type of spectacular smash-up is very rare. Only one driver... Good night, Mother. The thing that stuns people inside a car, well, some days just doesn't make it get up. Time now, once again, for Paul Harvey News.
And what more can I say than Paul Harvey?